The best wedding photographers make the best overall photographers. I said what I said. As a wedding photographer, I have to wear different hats. I have to be a portrait artist, a photojournalist, and a product photographer. I have to have the appropriate people skills to wrangle families for portraits, get a couple to relax and make a creative portrait while at the same time giving them a great experience before the venue says it's time for them to cut the cake, and also gently ask Uncle Bob not to stand in the aisle as the bride is being escorted by her father at the start of the ceremony. And I have to do it all within the span of a few consecutive hours. Then there are the technical challenges. Having to do family pictures outside at high noon, so you need the right gear and the experience to overpower the sun. Ceremonies where you can't or shouldn't use flash in rooms that are dimly lit, so you have to know how to make a proper exposure in that environment, and knowing how to get the dress and skin tones looking the way they're supposed to when there are different color, temperature, light sources all around. What I'm saying is this: wedding photographers have to be versatile. I'm hard-pressed to think of another field where, as a photographer, you have to excel in so many areas. Different photographers have their strong suits and areas where they might need a little more practice, and I'm no exception. We have to think on our feet, make quick adjustments to our lighting and exposure, and problem solve quickly. This is just one guy's opinion, but frankly, being a good wedding photographer makes you a better overall photographer. Interestingly, the reverse doesn't seem to be true. An excellent food photographer or architectural photographer or race car photographer might be the best there is in those fields, but by and large, my experience is they don't have the versatility in their backgrounds to do something like a wedding. I've heard plenty of stories over the years from couples who express regret that the amazing landscape photographer or natural light newborn photographer they hired for their wedding didn't know how to properly light family pictures when everything got moved inside because of rain. This isn't a knock on anyone in particular. I have nothing but respect for people who have worked hard to get good at a specific thing. My point here is that excellence in photographing that specific thing doesn't necessarily translate into a multidisciplinary field like wedding photography. I'm generally not one for reality shows, but in 2016 there was one called Top Photographer, hosted by Nigel Barker, no slouch himself. It was a competition where contestants competed to be named, as the title suggests, the top photographer. You can still watch it on Autorama's YouTube channel. I'll leave a link to it in the description below. The show featured 5 photographers, each from a different discipline, bringing their unique skill sets to tackle whatever challenges the show decided to throw at them each week. One of the contestants was a wedding photographer who, when the other photographers had their one-on-one interviews, kind of mocked him for it.
It's our lot in life.
After the first challenge, he did pretty well and seemed to gain a little respect. The other photographers clearly had lower expectations of him, but he ended up, at least initially, earning some approval for having more versatility than anticipated. And do you know who ended up winning the show? Well, it wasn't the wedding photographer, but wouldn't that have been something? When couples hire us to photograph their wedding, they have expectations that we're going to be able to do all the things. Because most photographers don't share full galleries, and most couples, when interviewing photographers, don't think to ask to see any, reality doesn't always align with their assumptions. If prospective couples can see what the photographers they're considering can actually do throughout a wedding day, they can then choose one of us based not on what we tell them we can do, but on what we actually produce. Those photographers who have their niche and excel at it are on the far end of the curve. These photographers are talented, driven, and are hired for campaigns that might run nationally or internationally. Am I going to make a portrait on par with Annie Leibovitz, or at least on par with the best of her work? Certainly not. But if a small magazine contacts me to photograph someone under deadline, I can do a good job and get it done quickly, because that's something I have to do every weekend. If a medium-sized organization needs editorial photography for marketing or an annual report, it's unlikely they're going to import the $8,000 day rate photographer from the nearest big city. They're going to contact someone like me who has the experience and portfolio of work that their art director can appreciate. I get to practice that skill set every weekend too. If you're specializing in a single thing like food photography or boudoir or product photography, it takes years of drilling away and determination to get first good and then excellent at that one thing. That's a degree of specialization I'm not currently interested in. I like the variety of tasks I have to perform at a high level on a wedding day. I enjoy the challenge of having 1 or 2 minutes in less than ideal conditions to make a portrait that's going to knock a couple socks off. What wedding photographers do is demanding. There are no do-overs on a wedding day, so we have to be adaptable and get it right the first time, often under time constraints. The lighting can change on a dime, and unexpected moments are just that, unexpected, and demand that we're attentive enough to capture them. We have to be able to read a room and connect with people, putting them at ease so we can photograph them just being themselves. And there's no getting away from it. Photography is a technical medium. It's our responsibility to know how our gear works so we can get the best out of it in service to the people who hire us. If I've heard it once, I've heard it 1,000 times, and I may have heard it that many times. Someone will say to me, I tried photographing a wedding once. It was a lot of pressure. If you can nail a wedding with all its moving parts, different personalities, technical challenges, and ever-changing conditions, you're likely to be able to perform reasonably well if called upon to photograph something else. There's an intensity and creativity needed in wedding photography where you're forced to cultivate a versatile skill set. So yeah, wedding photographers make the best overall photographers. Care to change my mind? I'd love to hear your opinion in the comments below. Thank you for watching. I appreciate your spending a few minutes with me. If you like this kind of video, please like and subscribe. If you'd like to see more videos like this, check out this other one I made for you. This is Ask a Wedding Photographer. I'm Seth K, and I'm here to help.